Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah. Now we are in our module 4, and inshallah today is our lesson number 13. And as you know, from lesson number 12, which was the previous lesson, we started module 4, and module 4 is Al Jumlatul Fi'liya, verbal sentence, a sentence that starts with a fail or verb. Okay, in our previous session we discussed few things. Inshallah, in today's lesson number 13, our topic is parts of al jumlatul fi'liya. Okay, as you remember, in module 3, when we were studying jumlatul ismiya, nominal sentence, at that time we discussed three parts of nominal sentence, and they were mubtada or subject, khabar or predicate, then muta'alliq bil khabar. Now in this module 4, when we are studying jumlatul fi'liya, a verbal sentence, now let's inshallah study what are the parts of a verbal sentence. Now, as you can see on the screen, it can have up to 4 parts. First is al-fail, the action along with tense and doer. Remember we discussed last time that fail mean a word that represents an action with tense and doer. Okay, so because sentence is starting with this fail, so that is the first part of jumlatul failure, and then al file or doer, or in English you call it subject, the person who is doing the action. Okay, and then third part is al maf'ul, which means details of the action. And then fourth part is muta'alliq bil fi'l. This fourth part is very simple. In jumlatul fi'liya, if you get a jar majur phrase, which means a prepositional phrase, so in jumlatul fi'liya, if you get a prepositional phrase or a jar majur phrase, this phrase will be called muta'alliq bil fi'l. And there's nothing else which you need to learn about this. So this fourth part, you can say it's already covered. Now these first three parts, inshallah, we'll see them in a minute in detail. Look at this example. Before the example, I have mentioned that the normal order of jumlatul fi'liya is first of all fail or verb, then file or doer, and then maf'ul. That is the normal order. Example, khalaqallahu adama. Khalaqa is fail. How do I know? Remember I said last time that in fail madi, the sign is a sound in the start and a sound in the end. Middle sound can change. Okay, khalaqa, the starting sound is a and last sound is a. This a sound mean it is fail madi. Okay, so khalaqa is a fail. So first part. Okay, Allahu is the file. The second part. Adama is maf'ul, the third part. Khalaqallahu Adama. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam. Allah created Adam. This is the translation. But I just want to show in this example the three parts of Jumlatul Fi'liya. Inshallah, they will come in detail at this point, just this one example to clarify the three parts. Now let's inshallah discuss these three parts in detail. So first part was fail or verb. Al Jumlatul Fi'liya starts with fail. Obviously, that's the reason it's called Jumlatul Fi'liya. Okay. And which fail? One of the 14 forms of fail, depending on the number and gender of the doer, is used. What does this mean? You remember in our previous session, we studied a fail chart, because still we are concerned with fail madi or past tense, but any fail chart, either madi or mudare, they have 14 cells. Okay, so one of those 14 forms of that fail will be used depending on number and gender of the doer. Let me clarify this point with example. Ja'ala al-arda. Now ja'ala is a fail. How do I know? Because you see ja, a, and then lam, a sound is telling me it is a fail and it's fail madi. So ja'ala al-arda. He created the earth. Where did I get the he from? Because jala mean made. Where is he? Remember we discussed last time, in every fail there is a built-in doer or subject. Inside jala, is the he doer. Inshallah, we'll discuss these things in detail. So that's why I translate it as he created. So Jala, he created. What? Al Arda, earth. He created the earth. So you see, Jala is a fail which is used there. Look next example. Jalu lillahi andada. Jalu. You see, it is still, the fail is still made. But this time instead of Jala, we use Jalu. Look, Ja, Ain and Lam. The starting three letters are same. Then some change is happening at the end. Why? Because this time the doer is they. They male. Remember, they male. That's why we use the, instead of Jahala, we use the Jalu form. Lillahi andada, they made equals with Allah or equals to Allah. Look, next example. Ja'alta lillahi nidda. Ja'alta, you made. Ja'alta, you see, Jim, Ain, and Lam. Starting part, it's same, okay? Ta, then at end we have Ta with Fatha. And Ta with Fatha ending means it is one male you. So you made equal with Allah. Ja'alti, it is still you made in English translation, but we know Ja'alti, Ta with Kasra, it means it is now you female. Ja'altum, all of you male made lillahi for Allah andada partners or equals. Okay, as you can see in all of these examples, we are using one fail, and that is Jim, Ain, and Lam letter Jala. But every time some change is happening in the form of the fail. Why? Depending on the number and gender of the doer. That is what I said in this point. Okay, that obviously Jumlatul Failiya, we start with the fail, but which form of the fail will be used? It will depend on the number and gender of that, as you have seen in this example. And inshallah, this point and this example will be coming in a lot more detail. At this point, I was only clarifying this thing, that what I mean by this when I said that one of those 14 forms of the fail will be used. Clear? So this is about fail. Now, second part of Jumlatul Failiya is al-fa'il or doer or subject. Now, take a pause and recall what we discussed previously, that every fail in Arabic has a built-in doer. The technical name for this built-in doer is damir mustatar, hidden pronoun. Okay, or you can simply call in English inside or built-in doer or subject. Clear? Every fail has a built-in independent pronoun, and that independent pronoun serves as the doer or subject for that fail. And that is our first type of fail, that first type of doer or subject or file. First type is the one which is built in. Example, look at the example. Nasartum. Now, once again, noon, sod, and ra. This is the actual letters of the fail, which is nasara, which means the action of helping. The but ending is tum, nasar tum. Why we have this tum ending? Depending on the number and the gender, because in this case the doer is you, all of you. Okay, and the word for all of you is all of you male is antum. Okay, so nasartum has a hidden or inside or built-in doer, and that is antum. Clear? Nasara has a built-in inside doer, which is huwa, which means he. You get the point? So inside nasar, even though you can see noon sadra in nasartum and noon sadra in nasara, both of them have same ending, is telling you that what is the hidden inside or built-in doer. In case of nasartum, it was antum. In case of nasara, it was huwa. So all I'm saying in this slide is, if you pause the video and read the slide, that file or doer has two types. First type is that which is inside built-in doer, and this is always a independent pronoun or damir, like he, she, they, etc. Clear? But as you know, it's not the case that all the time we only have the pronoun as doer. Sometimes we have some other object as doer. And what I mean by this, let me clarify this from this slide. So there's a second type of doer. By the way, I'm repeating again and again. I'm calling it doer, I'm calling it subject, I'm calling it file. All of these are same thing. Okay. So in the previous slide, we discussed the first type of doer, and that was built-in doer, which is a pronoun. There's a second type of doer. And what is that? Sometimes the hidden doer or the built-in pronoun is not considered as the doer. Rather, another ism that comes after the fail plays the role of doer. Clear? Now, before I explain this, let me show you example. Look at example. Khalaqallahu Adama. Khalaqa. Khalaqa. Action of creating. Khalaqa fail madi, created. Khalaqa, he created. So inside khalaqa, there's a hidden doer, and that is he. Why? Because khalaqa is in the chart. Khalaqa is the starting point, and in the starting point, the default doer is he. After that, when you move on in your chart, in your 14 cell chart, then doer keep changing. But in the first cell, doer is who? Huwa or he. Okay. So khalaqa means he created. Allahu Adama. Okay. Now there was a hidden built-in doer inside khalaqa, and that was he. In this example, that he is cancelled. It not be considered as the doer. What is the doer now? Allahu will be the doer. Inshallah, I explain to you. Just give me 1 minute. I come back to this point of why Allahu is the doer. But for now, the he which was inside built-in doer is cancelled, and Allahu will serve as the doer. So instead of saying khalaqa, he created, we'll say khalaqallahu, Allah created. Clear? Adama, Adam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam. Okay. So khalaqa had inside doer, which was he, that is cancelled in this example, and Allah who became the doer. Now you might be thinking that how would I know that when I will use the inside built-in doer and when I will use the outside doer? Very simple. Now you read these four things, four conditions. Number one, outside doer can come only if your fail in the chart is either number 1 or number 4. What I mean by this, let me show you this from the previous lesson, so it should be clear to you. You see, this was your pronoun chart, right? It has 14 cells altogether. I am saying what I said in that point. If your fail, which is used in the sentence, is either number 1, which is Nasara kind of thing, or number 4. Just in these two cases, there's a possibility of having an outside doer. I am not saying that whenever you use this first one and fourth one, there has to be, no. What I'm saying is, if your fail, if the form of fail used in the sentence belongs to either number 1 or number 4. Number 1 is for he and number 4 is for she. Only in these two cases, there's a possibility that you may get an outside doer. In rest of all of the 12, they will always be inside built-in doer. Clear? One more time. Let me repeat this. From this chart of 14 cells chart or the 5 rows chart, only number 1, which has a built-in he doer, and number 4, which has a built-in she doer. Only in these two cases, you may get an outside doer and inside doer will be cancelled. In rest of all the 12 words or the 12 forms of the fail, they will always be built-in, inside doer will be used. Clear? This is what I mean. Now let's go back to that same slide again. So this was the first condition, okay? That the form of the fail used should either be first or fourth. Next, the noun which is becoming the doer must come after the fail. As you see, khalaqa and then Allahu. Allahu cannot come, it cannot be Allahu khalaqa. No, khalaqa and then Allahu. So the ism which is going to be qualifying as outside doer, it must come after the fail. Third condition, this ism must be in rafa status. As you can see, Allahu is in rafa status. And fourth and the final condition, this ism and fail, both of them should match in one thing. And what is that one thing? Gender. In gender, not anything else, just gender. Okay. If these four conditions are met, then it means that the inside doer will be cancelled and outside doer will become the doer. As khalakallahu adama, khalaqa has a he doer inside it, but he is cancelled. Why? Because condition number one, khalaqa is number one in the chart. So first condition is fulfilled. And then Allahu is coming after khalaqa. Second condition is fulfilled. And Allahu is in rafa status. Third condition is fulfilled. And last, khalaqa, the word khalaqa and one Allahu, they both match in their gender, and that is masculine. I am not saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ma'azallah, is masculine. No, I'm saying the word Allah in Arabic language, the word Allah is not having the possibility of femininity. It is masculine, and khalaqa is also masculine. Okay, so because khalaqa and Allahu qualified all the four conditions. So now inside doer, which was he, it will be cancelled and Allahu will become the doer. That's why we translated it. Allah created Adam. We did not say he created Adam. One more example. Aflahal mu'minun. Aflaha. Okay. To become successful. Al mu'minun mean the believers. The believers succeeded. The believers succeeded. Now, aflaha has an inside he doer. How do I know? Because aflaha belongs to first cell. Okay. Inshallah, you will also learn eventually that how do you know it belongs to first cell. Okay. Inshallah, you will learn this as well. So aflaha belongs to first cell. First condition is fulfilled. And then al-mu'minuna is coming after the aflaha, and al-mu'minuna is a ism. Al-mu'minuna is in the first status. Al-mu'minuna and aflaha, they are both masculine. So al-mu'minuna qualified to be the outside doer. Why? Because al-mu'minuna fulfilled all the four conditions. Now aflaha mean only aflaha mean he succeeded. But aflaha al-mu'minuna, the believers succeeded. So the believers become the outside doer and the he built-in doer is cancelled. Last example, nasaratil muslimat. Now nasarat is actually nasarat. Okay, so it is number 4 in the cell. This kasra is only here to join this ta with lam. Otherwise it is nasarat. And inshallah you will learn with the passage of time as well that how do we know that this kasra is just for the sake of joining and the actual word is nasarat. Inshallah you will learn as well. Just give yourself a bit of time. Okay, so nasarat, okay, it is number 4 in the chart. Al-muslimatu is a ism and it is in rafa status. Al-muslimatu, atu is a rafa status. Al-muslimatu and nasarat, they both match in their gender. How do I know? Both have this ta of femininity. So because al-muslimatu fulfilled all the 4 conditions, so now if there was only nasarat, it will be she helped. But nasaratil muslimatu, the Muslim women help. So instead of she, so she, which was the inside built-in doer, is cancelled and al-muslimatu became the doer. Clear? So now let's take a pause. Okay, let me recap this second part of doer. So al-fa'il or doer has 2 types. Inside built-in doer, which is always a pronoun, and outside doer, which is a ism, which comes after the fail in rafa status. Clear? So this is all the discussion about this second part, fa'il or doer. Let's move on. Third part is maf'ul, the details of the action. Now, very simple. First of all, in the sentence, if you get these details of what, why, how, where, and when, this detail will be called maf'ul. Let me give you the example. Ahmad ate chocolate yesterday at home happily because he was hungry. Clear? Now, Ahmad ate what? chocolate. So you see, chocolate is answering the question of what? When did he eat? Yesterday. Where? At home. So yesterday and at home, they are answering the question of when and where. Okay. How did he eat? Happily. So happily is giving the answer of how. Because he was hungry. So this last part is giving you the answer of why. So those words in Jumlatul Failiyah which are giving you information of what, when, where, how, and why, we will call those words maf'ul. Clear? Now, in this presentation, inshallah, which you can download and you can read for yourself, obviously, as you can see that if your maf'ul is giving the information of what, we have a specific name for it. It's called maf'ul bihi. And if your maf'ul is giving the information of when and where, we have a fancy name for it. And that fancy name is maf'ul fihi. And if your maf'ul is giving the detail of how, it is called maf'ul hal. And if your maf'ul is giving the detail of why, it's called maf'ul lahu. And if your maf'ul is not giving any of those what, where, why, and how, rather it is just making the sentence emphatic, it's called maf'ul mutlaq. So very simple, maf'ul is the detail of the action. But obviously, sometimes detail is giving you the information about what, it will be called maf'ul bihi. In the case of when and where, it's called maf'ul fihi. Likewise, maf'ul lahu and maf'ul hal. And maf'ul mutlaq is when it's not giving the information of why, where, and what, rather it's making the sentence emphatic. Example is kallamallahu Musa taklima. Allah spoke to Musa alayhi salam takliman. Now takliman is playing the role of maf'ul mutlaq. Why? It's not giving you any extra information. It just makes the sentence emphatic. Allah spoke to Musa directly, takliman, even though the literal meaning of takliman is not directly, okay? But we need to translate it somehow to tell the reader that this sentence has bit of emphasis. Inshallah, all of these things, when they will be applied in the sentences, they will make you, inshallah, more sense and they will be more clearer and things will be in their perspective. For now, all I'm saying is that this third part of Jumlatul Failiyah, which is maf'ul, it gives you the details of what, why, where, when, and how, and sometimes just the emphasis. Okay. Now, last part of Jumlatul Failiyah, Muta'alliq bil Fail. I said in the start, this last part is very simple. In Jumlatul Failiyah, if you get a jar majroor phrase, which means a prepositional phrase, it will be called Muta'alliq bil Fail. Example is Khatam Allahu ala qulubihim. Khatama is a fail. How do I know? Allahu is the file. How do I know? Allahu is the ism which is coming after the khatama and it is in rafa status and it match in the gender. So Allahu qualifies to be the outside doer. So word Allahu qualifies to be. Okay. So Allah placed a seal ala kulubihim upon their hearts. Okay. Ala is a preposition and kulubihim is serving here as majroor. So ala is the jar part and kulubihim is the majroor part, and together this ala kulubihim is the jar majroor part and it is serving as your muta'alliq bil fail. Khatama is serving as a fail, Allahu as the file, and ala kulubihim as the muta'alliq bil fail. Let's summarize inshallah and we are done. So today we discussed parts of Jumlatul Failiyah, and Jumlatul Failiyah has 4 parts. Fail, that is the word which starts the Jumlatul Failiyah and it represents the action with tense. And in this fail, any of the word from those 14 forms of fail, one of them will be used. In terms of file or doer or subject, it has 2 types. Sometimes it is inside, built in, and sometimes it is outside. Okay. And main thing is, that's the key point. Please pay attention. It is file is a ism in rafa status, which comes after the fail. Ism in rafa status, which comes after the fail. And what is maf'ul? Maf'ul is the detail. And maf'ul is also a ism, but in what status? In nasab status. Clear? So what we are learning on this one summary slide is, which is a summary of the whole topic of today, that the ism in rafa status serves as the file, but ism in nasab status serves as the maf'ul. That's all you need to know. And last point, inshallah, before I finish this lesson, that this maf'ul or the detail or the ism in nasab status, most of the time it will come in these first two forms: a clear ism in nasab status or a pronoun attached with fail. Inshallah, in next lesson, when we practice this one, I will show you this in detail. But for now, just remember this much, that maf'ul part is a ism in nasab status, or second form is it is a pronoun attached with fail. And what is the file part? It is a ism in rafa status, which comes after the fail. So understand the difference between the file and the maf'ul. File and maf'ul both are ism. Both are ism. But file is in rafa status and maf'ul is in nasab status. That is the difference. Clear? And last part, what mutalik will fail. As I said before, a jar majroor phrase coming in jumlatul failiyah serves as the muta'alliq bil fail. So you can pause the video. On this slide, you got the summary of the whole topic of today. Okay, now, as I always say, I'm going to say it again. I'll keep saying it till the end. In the description of this video, download this same presentation which I just gave to you, and also the complete notes of this lesson as well. Read them, watch the video. Inshallah, you will be clear. And any question you have, inshallah, they will be answered, inshallah, when we do the practice of these things in our next lesson. Until next, barakallahu fi and jazakumullahu khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.